Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Empowered by Ems podcast. I'm your host, Emily Kandanga Erastus, and today I am joined by a very special guest. You know, with my guest feature episodes that my intention is to bring you somebody who you can learn from, somebody who is going to inspire you, and somebody who can really help you get a little bit closer to the version of you that you desire to be. So today I have the lovely Miss Prarthana Rao, and I'm so excited to have her. She's also known as the Maverick Mum, which I love. I absolutely love how catchy that movement is that you've started. So welcome to the podcast, Prarthana. It's so lovely to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily. I am so thrilled that I get to have this catch up with you and to tune into the conversations you have already on your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know, which many of you won't, Prarthana and I met on a mastermind that we were both co taking part in.
Participants.
Yeah, co-participating. Thank you. We were both participating in it. And it was so lovely to be in her energy. She was one of the people who I connected with without speaking to. And there were quite a few ladies who we just had this connection that I knew, like, I just like your energy. I like what you're about. I love your message. And so when I thought about people to bring to the podcast, especially as this one was definitely a selfish move, because as a soon to be mama myself, it is in the stars. I really want to connect with and build a community with moms all over the world, not just locally where I am. So she's exactly that. And especially the message that she is bringing to moms all over the world. So Prarthana is a self-love and empowerment coach, and she's also the founder of the Maverick Mum Movement. Like, how catchy is that? I love it. MMM. She is inspiring a new generation of Maverick moms to challenge the status quo, to root themselves in their abundant self-worth, and fall deeply and compassionately and unapologetically in love with themselves. Love that combination. She shows women how to shed mom guilt and discover the new beautiful parts of themselves that they've long been shamed for. She really encourages her clients to enjoy a schedule where personal and family time are non-negotiable, and that one where they feel deeply supported and resourced so that their needs and desires are not an afterthought, but are in fact their highest priority. Through her one-on-one work, her monthly memberships, and her group coaching programs, she's on a mission to guide mothers back to themselves, to their identity, to their dreams, and to a state of unwavering enoughness so that they can start living a life that is truly abundant and rich with purpose. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me again, Prarthana. Welcome to the podcast. I love that. I love how you introduced yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm doing a little dance just hearing you say it's ooh. Firstly, so delighted to be here, Emily, and you are spot on. We connected. I connected with you immediately as well. There was just something about I think it's energy. You're right. It is to do with the energy of the individual. It's not always the sort of deep, long, endless conversations you have with someone. Just by knowing you have their support, even if it's unspoken, knowing that you have their energy supporting you,
Yeah,
even if it's not voiced in that way,
yeah.
there is through the Zoom room, there was something I knew I connected with you for, and I think that's what it is. It's you're in the energetic field of somebody,
Yeah.
and I knew I was in yours, and I'm delighted to hear I'm in yours too.
Mm.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. No, Prarthana, I want you to tell us a little bit. Who is Prarthana? Who is she?
Going straight for the jugular here, are we?
Oh, yeah.
Um, Oh, okay. I'll attempt this. Because I have dedicated myself, Emily. When I started my coaching journey, I completely committed and dedicated myself to figuring out who Prarthana is.
Mm,
It's And at every stage, I find um, the words I use to describe myself change because at every stage, I find myself evolving into someone else, into someone new, into someone different, into somebody who knows it more than they did yesterday. And at the same time, I suppose it is to do with this internal journey of growth, of evolution.
mm,
And therefore, Prarthana is unfinished. Prarthana
mm,
is a work in progress. Prarthana is this shy, timid, and unsure girl in India with a group of people in a family who was extremely, extremely supportive.
mm,
I was always supported, always nurtured, always empowered to be my own person.
mm,
And and yet there was a part of me which felt I needed to protect. I needed to hide away. I needed to guard it. And and the more I think about it, in very much in my later years, so 20 years I lived in India, grew up there, moved here to the UK. And in my later years, Prarthana has discovered that there is parts of me which were living in trauma, I suppose, in trauma of being that people pleaser who I'd always been, in the fear of exposing myself. And I think that's why Prarthana and this identity I'm forming for myself really excites me, because at no given stage I feel like I have done my job or I know who I am. And that's very exciting because at every stage there is new parts of me. I'm shedding the old me and discovering the new me or the evolving me at every stage. And
yeah.
that's what's so thrilling about this journey I'm on with myself, because I know the journey, I know this journey is long and vast and wide and endless. And there will always be more of me to discover, and there will always be parts of me I deserve to be compassionate towards. There
Mm,
are bits of me which I have not enjoyed so much, and that's also me. There are bits of me I'm very, very proud of, and that's also me. There are parts of me which are still unhealed, and I'm very shy about. That's also me. And there are parts of me I wake up in the morning and I know I'm killing it, and that's also me.
oh my
So, in
God.
a nutshell, there is more to come, and there is lots to achieve.
I love that so much. I related and connected so much with what you said about being a people pleaser and being a recovering people pleaser and the fear of like really what being a people pleaser is about, which comes down to like just wanting to be liked, but like also needing to understand that it's like okay not to be liked and that not everybody's gonna like you, and like there's like a comfort that you kind of have to develop in that. And I've had to do a lot of work on that as well and continue to as a recovering people pleaser as well. Like, oh. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love how eloquently put that was. Can you tell us a little bit more about your personal journey with, yeah, just where you've been, what you've been doing? I'm so curious.
Ah, personal journey. I grew up in India. I was born and brought up in a small town of Bhopal in India, and I grew up as somebody who was always vocal about what I wanted, and also always shy and timid at the same time.
Mm,
paradoxes, as they say. There was something about the way I was supported at home with, so I grew up in a very matriarchal setup. And I grew up with a lot of independence to become who I wanted to be. Um, and at the same time, I think there was something inherent in me which was reserved, which was introverted. And and that part of me always wanted to be the people pleaser. And that's the part of me which always wanted to be the good girl. So I grew up being the good girl in the family. I grew up being the person who always put herself last and was celebrated and applauded for it. I grew up being the person, the girl in the family who was always present and always available for everybody, and therefore I was the poster child for good behavior. And as I in my later years, I realized, no, that's not true. I didn't realize that wasn't serving me. I realized only when motherhood came to me, when my journey into motherhood began, that I realized that was very intrinsically part of my maternal DNA as well, because I had seen the women around me also model that for me. So it was part of my maternal DNA, which at some point began to bother me with my first daughter. So I'm a mom of two girls. And it began to bother me because I knew she was watching. But it also began to bother me because I was depleting myself. I was constantly running on empty. And it's like, who am I trying to prove what to and why? There was absolutely no need for me to bend over backwards in service of everybody else and put myself at the very bottom of the to-do list. And that was my turning point. That was the sort of, some sort of wheels in motion began inside of me, where I knew that I had to change that, because it just was not doing what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted my life to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's when my journey into self-belief, into faith in myself, and into creating that life, designing that life for me, which truly lit me up, which truly gave me the joy and the sort of when you say designing the life of your dreams, that's where it began for me, because I knew that I did not want my daughter to be this way. I did not want her to be watching me be this way. And I wanted her to remember me as the person who dances around in the kitchen, who's cooking, but also working, who is supporting her with her homework, but also going to the gym and, teaching herself to be more of herself. All of those things were important. Yeah. And when my second daughter came, I knew that as a mother to two girls, I needed more than ever before to model it for them. Because I think a lot of this behavior, at least in my worldview, is linked to gender. And I didn't want that to be the case for my daughters. I did not want that to be the case for them, because would it be a better world if they weren't having these conversations 20 years on? I mean, please, we don't want this anymore for them. And the next generation, we owe it to the next generation. Like the women before us have done things, so we can say we're self-made today because somebody else did something for that, for us. So pave the way, and I think it's our responsibility to do that for the next generation.
I love that. That makes it even bigger than all of us, bigger than just your own selfish desires, even if they are sprinkled in there. But like, wow, to just be able to take care of yourself and teach that and model that to your daughters, because they really do. Kids, I'm around children a lot. I'm lucky. I think it's the way my heart is set up, because I naturally gravitate towards kids. They see my inner child and they like connect with her right away. So it's so cool to see, because I've always been like, why do kids just like me? But they're like, and I'm like, yes, little people. And I love seeing the world through their eyes, and they absorb absolutely everything that they see, hear, like everything. So it's so crucial that they are seeing something that is empowering to them and not a message that is creating an inner conflict too with them, because they might already have a desire, or growing up have this desire to like be a certain way, but then they're seeing something else out there being modeled. And that also creates this confusion that I know I really battled with in terms of what my career would be, what my life would look like. Cause I was just like, like, so to be able to see something different and see something different in such a beautiful and empowering way is really beautiful. I applaud you, celebrating you for being so intentional with that. So how did you go about shifting yourself from that place of feeling stuck and burnt out and uninspired to where you are now and the Maverick mom that you are? What does it mean to be a Maverick mom? That's another one.
Oh, let's start there. Let's start. I think Maverick Mum for me is the mother who is living unapologetically for herself at the same time as living for those she loves.
Mm,
In a nutshell, that's what that is.
yeah.
It's and at the very core of it, it questions and challenges the status quo of the what it means to be a mother, what it means to be on this journey of motherhood. And I think that is that when that came to me, Emily, I knew what my mission was going to be. I
Mm,
knew then that it was about stepping out of what is called the fog of motherhood very often
mm,
and stepping into yourself and who you are. The fact that we lose ourselves in motherhood, something which is so often spoken about, it's what it does, it's a natural progression. I imagine it is something many of us go through and will go through.
yeah.
I think it's about coming back home to you, to who you are as a person.
Mm,
Because I think the fog is part of the journey, but the way back home to you is very much a homecoming. It's
mm,
very much a finding yourself again.
mm,
And that does not necessarily have to be the old you, the you used to be,
mm-hmm.
because that then it negates the evolution of your journey as a mum. So it's the you which is yet to emerge. It's the you which is evolving, but the
Mm,
you in rooted in today, rooted in your current reality.
mm,
And I think that's what a maverick mum is. A maverick mum is somebody who is standing in her power, who is aware of the responsibility she has towards herself at the same time as all the other responsibilities she has, which
mm,
of course are overpowering and can be quite all often are all consuming.
yeah.
And yet there is you at the center of it. And if you don't fuel yourself, you cannot support this group of people around you who need your support so much. And remind me of your question, please.
I was asking how you created this change. Like what were certain things that you focused on, certain habits, certain thought patterns that you had to shift? Yeah, what were you doing?
Thank you.
Mm,
Um, it began with me questioning and challenging what I realized was part of my maternal DNA, the putting myself last,
mm,
the being available to everyone all the time. And my needs fell to the very bottom of the pile.
yeah.
And it began with me recognizing that I had to and required to and was important to prioritize myself.
Mm,
And that always looked different. On any given day, for me, it looked different. And therefore, for you, for your listeners, for everybody on any given day, it will also look different.
yeah.
It is to do with whatever time you have. If you have 2 minutes today, give yourself 2 minutes. If you have 2 hours tomorrow, give yourself 2 hours. If you have 2 days, give
Mm,
yourself 2 days. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like, it's I realized that it was important for me to build a habit of spending time with me alone for myself and not, house chores while nobody was home. But reading a book while no one was home,
Yeah.
or everybody was, looked after, taken care of, asleep, away, whatever it is. Reading a book, listening to a podcast, um, going to the gym, playing
Mhm.
the guitar, whatever it is, whatever it looks like, pick up a hobby, go for a walk in the sunshine, take a nap. I mean, mothers go through so much sleep deprivation. It is insane. So take a nap, take a bath, whatever it looks like, how much ever time you have. Breathe while the kettle boils. I was talking to a client recently,
Oh, love
and
that.
she said, I have no time in my day. You're boiling the kettle, connect to your breath
Mm.
and just breathe intentionally. Something we're doing all the time and we don't notice it and we don't recognize it. Just, if you feel and connect with the breath as it feeds your body and nourishes your body, it will begin to impact your day positively. So it could be anything. It could be reading a book, it could be taking a walk, it could be breathing for 2 minutes. Do that. And when I began, Emily, to do this incrementally and every day, because it doesn't come easy, self care, the fact that it's such a massive topic for mums is because it is very, very difficult to
Mm.
create space for in your day. And yet it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And and we're all sold on the benefits of it. So yes, it's hard. Make it happen for yourself because your future self will thank you for it.
Mm.
And if we do this day after day, slowly, and if you don't do it tomorrow, that's okay. Go back to it the day after. If you don't do it the day after that, not to worry, go back to it on the fourth day. So
Yeah.
keep coming back to spending more time with you in whatever, in whichever way that works for you on the day. You will begin to create space in your day for yourself
Mm.
and find creative ways to do that without feeling the guilt,
Yeah.
because I think guilt is such a massive part again of motherhood. I was listening to something the other day, and it was to a food. It was a food related blog, I think, and that lady was listing how there's gluten free options and dairy free options and
Mm.
this free option and that free option. And I'm thinking, there is gluten free, there is dairy free, there is this free, there is that free. I'm yet to meet a mother who is guilt free. I mean, in this day and age, where there is a free version of anything you can
Very.
think of, there is a free version of it. But we are yet to find moms who are guilt free. I mean, why is it so deep in our psyche?
I love.
Why is it so all encompassing,
Mm.
regardless of culture? Like, I'm Indian culture is very well known, and I know your culture as well, Emily. There are some cultures which are very well known for um, who are known in the outside world as cultures where women do a lot of stuff, take on a lot of home responsibility, and I know my culture is very much that.
Mm.
It's But regardless of culture, there is guilt. Regardless of culture, there is guilt in this modern world. A mother in a different culture is also experiencing this, is also having the same conversations with herself.
Yeah.
And it's very important, I think, for us to figure out that we need to create a new breed of motherhood, which is not overshadowed you know, and sitting with the burden of this mom guilt.
Yeah.
So my mission is also to do away with mom guilt. So if my children choose to go down that route in the future, they're not having a guilt conversation as well on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it almost seems like moms don't even need to learn any like how to have the mom guilt. It just comes through. It just comes a knocking, and then you're just all of a sudden you're feeling guilty and horrible and questioning, oh no, am I being selfish? Is this what about my baby? My baby, my oh my goodness, it's actually kind of crazy. I think it kicks in like with the mother instinct because what the heck? It's crazy. Wow.
And it really cripples you. I think it really cripples you. And that's what the status quo, the sort of the given in our society is you become a mom and you feel guilty. There is it's natural progression. And why? But there is so much of me which really questions it. I mean, does that narrative serve us? And if it doesn't, let's start doing away with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere. And I think self-care, building those practices into your day,
yeah,
creating a new routine for yourself, begins to question that status quo. And
yeah.
therefore, in my opinion, do away with that guilt.
Mm. Yeah, it slowly begins to help you rewire that pattern of thinking that you feel like you're doing something that is to the detriment of someone else because you're putting yourself first. But instead it becomes like just a natural priority, like a habit would over time, and it will become unconscious eventually as well, where it is just what you do. Your kids also know that this is what you do. I've seen that my sister's doing that a lot more when she's gotten intentional with going to the gym. And she's like, she was telling me that her two boys are like, "Oh, you're going to the gym again?" And they're like, "You went yesterday." And she's like, "Yeah, this is for me. This is my quiet time. I'm going." But it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really needed. And the kids should know as well why it's important, and why, especially from the other side, like having boys as well in the picture. So you mentioned a few of those routines, some of the things that you would recommend people do. I loved how you broke it down to like 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days. Like take what you have and use it instead of being overwhelmed with guilt and feeling like there's not enough time to do anything. So yeah, I really want to see like what is your typical, this is a question that I didn't send you, but what does like a typical week look like in terms of your self-care little bits? What are you doing on a 7-day period? Like what's it made up of?
Hmm. Um, so my younger one is 2 years old,
Mm,
and part of my self-care very early on was knowing that she needed to go to nursery. She
mm,
needed to be supported elsewhere.
mm,
Not because I don't love her, but because I love myself too.
mm,
And 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 that's where it I recommend that's where you begin. If you have the support, if you have the resources, and I know this is, me speaking from a place of privilege, of course I understand that. But
mm.
if you have the resources available,
Yeah.
start start where your resources are. My resource was that I could support her, have her supported by somebody else in nursery. And she has been going to nursery for the last year now.
Mm,
And the, it's it was important for me to have that time for myself because I could, yes, of course, I'm self-employed. I work for myself. I work from home. I needed this space back for me to be able to start work again. I needed the time back for me to be able to focus on myself again. And it was, it's so on any given day, I have the sort of 9 o'clock in the morning to the 3 o'clock in the afternoon period for me. And
mm,
often that day begins with first thing, so drop off, and then a trip to the gym,
mm,
a walk if I'm not feeling the gym on
mm,
that day, or I didn't sleep last night, come back and take a nap because that's what I
mm.
want to do today. It could be any of those things.
Love it.
It's come back, drop them off, go back into bed. I don't have calls today. I'm going to take a nap because I didn't sleep last night
Yeah.
because my daughter was pooing all night. It could be
Yeah.
anything. It
Yeah.
could be anything. And it's so then wake up and do the calls, get on calls, but also getting ready for myself depending on your situation. Early motherhood, it's hard to feel like you want to get dressed because you don't want to do this for anyone. you know Jump in that shower, get ready for yourself. Whatever it is, put on a dress, put on some makeup,
Yeah.
go back into loungewear, whatever it is you want, do
Yeah.
that for you. And I remember, Emily, in the first year when my daughter was at home, little one was at home, I didn't have any there were days I couldn't motivate myself to do any of that. And it
Mm,
was hard.
mm,
Those days I wasn't productive. Those days I wasn't showing up for me.
mm,
So showing up for yourself, not for other people, not for your, not for Instagram, not for, uh, the external, but for yourself. Begin with doing that for you. And once I have done that, my children are taken care of, once I've got ready for me, then I can show up for my clients. And that's where it begins for me. Come back, find yourself first, and then you can support others. So
mm,
then I might be on a call, and on 2, 3 calls, I'm designing my website. I'm doing something. I'm having a podcast conversation like this one.
mm.
I'm having a coaching conversation with a client, talking about all the things which give me joy, talking about a guilt-free world, talking about a world where we're not, mothers are not living under a rock because we have not had a chance to look outside into the world because we've been so busy with home chores and responsibilities. And it happens so often that you feel disconnected from the world. So come back to that, come back to you. And then of course, my day might involve um getting some food ready for the kids before school pickup, having dinner organized for the pickup, and a snack for my older one when I go to pick her
Mm.
up. All of those sort of maternal responsibilities, in my view, are are things I enjoy. So I know that in my life, in my perfect day, I need a mix of this and that. I
Yes.
need a mix of time for me and a mix of time for my kids and my husband.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, of course, is when the kids come along, your connection with your partner
Mhm.
seems to take a back seat. And I'm going to throw this in because it's important to say
Yes,
that
please.
so often you are so involved with the children and finding yourself that the sort of the connection you have with your partner seems to take a back seat. And I went through that. I My husband and I didn't have a lot of time for each other. We still some days don't have a lot of time for each other because the kids need us. When one's gone to bed, the other one's awake, and the other one's gone to bed, and this one's thrown up, or that one needs a nappy change, or that one says, "Mommy, I can't sleep." There's a lot of those things going
Yeah.
on, and I think all of those things are again reminders for me that I need to pour into myself. Unless I pour into me, I cannot support my daughter at 3 in the morning when she's had a nightmare.
Mm.
And even if she's gone back to bed with after a night terror, I'm awake because my sleep's not broken,
Yeah.
and then you wake up in the morning feeling depleted. And
Yeah.
it's all of those things. When you find the time, how much ever time you find, pour into yourself because all day you've spent pouring out of you.
Mm. Mm. Oh, I love that. And you're so right. There is no off switch with motherhood, with mothering. So you can't even be like, yeah, no, I'll give myself only like a little bit this much to this kid. Like you, as a mother, your natural instinct is to just selfishly give. So it's so important that we return that and we pour back into our own cups as well. I love that so much. You touched a little bit on some of the questions I was going to ask following up, which I love, but maybe just for you to highlight a little bit, what are some of the ways that you support and coach the moms that you work with, especially somebody who comes to you who is riddled with mom guilt, with fear, with anxiety. They don't want to leave their baby. They are struggling to take care of themselves. Their relationship with their husband is like almost non-existent. It's really it's getting the back seat in not a good way. Where would you start with somebody like that, and how would you guide and support them?
Hmm. Um, I would start with encouraging them to turn the spotlight back onto themselves. That's always, always, Emily, my starting point. And
Mm,
as hard as unnatural and as uncomfortable it feels, my advice to all my clients, my session one with any client is about sitting with that discomfort of
mm,
creating space, if not time, then space for yourself in your day. And often it's because it feels so unnatural, it takes a while to find inside of you, because there's also so much around us, isn't there, about self-care, about self-love,
Yeah.
that beyond a certain point we numb ourselves to it. And I think we do so more as mothers because yeah, self-care,
Yeah.
I don't have time for this,
I get that for that.
just
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's why it's always my priority when I sit down with a client to spend. So I always have a call with them before of session one. So there's a session zero before session one. And
Mm.
session zero is is she and I, my client and I, having a very frank conversation about where they're at in their journey
Mm.
of creating that time and that space for themselves. Um, and it begins with their desire. It always begins with what it is they want to change, they want to make happen in their lives. And often, because of the work I do, because of how the content I put out, my newsletters and my Instagram, because of who I stand for, I imagine there is a message around self-care being crucial to our lives, self-love being crucial to our lives, and who we as we become this person we were always meant to be in this world.
Mm.
And therefore, once we have sat together with that discomfort, we begin to chart out a plan, like a blueprint of what it is they want to achieve as the conversations go forth and carry on. And often it could be that they want to go back to work and they don't know where to start. Often it might be that they want to go back to work, but they don't want to go back to the same work they were in, same job they were in, because they have changed as individuals,
Mm.
and they notice that their priorities are different and they want different things from life. So it is about designing that role for them. And that's when we begin from a completely blank slate.
Yeah.
You bring The individual brings their sort of core values and and core values and who they are and where they want to be, their dreams, their aspirations. But what responsibilities they want in their role is something which becomes secondary then,
Yeah.
because it begins with you. And that is always my prime focus, because not many people spend that time with themselves.
Mm.
And that's why, in my view, this is different to business coaching, to work job focused coaching,
Yeah.
because it is about the individual. It is about the individual. It's about, and often things like relationships, their relationships with others, but also their relationship with themselves. People pleasers, recovering people pleasers like I am. It takes us a while as women, as mothers, as people pleasing mothers, to be able to sift through that fog.
Mm.
So my conversations with them will typically be around what do you see? Where do you want to go? What does that future you feel like? What does that future you look like? What is that future you wearing? How is that future you being in this world?
Yeah.
Who does this person have around them? What is your circle of support? Who can you lean on? Who
Mm.
can you, who can you, what
Grow
sort of
it.
relationships can exactly grow with, cultivate? What sort of relationships can you cultivate? Because so much of it is about tapping into the resources you already have, but you don't know you have. And
Mm.
that's very often the case. We might have so much around us, but because we've been so involved deep in the trenches, like they say, so deep in the trenches that you haven't thought about, oh gosh, of course I have this. And of course I have that friend I can rely on. Oh yes, I have that person I haven't spoken to in ages. My neighbor's been offering to help and I haven't,
Mm. Mm.
I can lean on her for something. It's because we haven't been taught how to ask for help.
Yeah.
We don't have the confidence to say, excuse me, can you do this for me today, please?
Mm.
Because again, if you have an upbringing like I've had, or a personality type like I have, it's um it's not something you've done because you've always been the person who's offered help as opposed to being the person who's asked for help. So it takes a certain amount of courage, faith, confidence to say, can I ask for help, please? I need help today. It's not a sign of weakness. We have been told that it's a sign of weakness to ask for support. It isn't. It doesn't have to be. It's vulnerability. Saying, I'm struggling a little bit. Can you help me? Is a sign of strength. It's a sign of power. It's a sign of saying, I know the support I need and want and desire, and I make that happen for me.
Yeah. I love that. That's a beautiful way to rebrand. Asking for and receiving support as well, because in that asking, you have to also be willing to allow yourself to receive the help and not be trying to control how it's given to you or micromanage or do all those other things that really don't allow you to fully receive the help that you desire. So thank you so much for sharing that, Prarthana. That was so beautiful. So much passion. I can see it is alive in you. Ah, thank you. Before we wrap up today, I just want you to share a little bit where people can connect with you. Where can they find you? What is coming up in your world that people can look out for? Yeah, I'll also be dropping everything in the show notes, but I would love for you to share it.
So I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Prarthana on Instagram, the Maverick Mum. And I absolutely love to connect with people on there. There is also a side of me available on my Instagram, which is, as I'm discovering, the truest form of me. There's a lot I share about who I am, who I'm becoming, but also who I support and how I support them. And I think that's really crucial. There is a lot of free support, advice, pointers, suggestions on how you can create more time for yourself on my Instagram. So please do find me there. There is also a link on there to sign up to my newsletter, which comes to you every once a week, sometimes twice a week, which is packed with ways you can create time for you. Everything, like we said, from the 2 minutes of breathing while the kettle's boiling to a weekend away with yourself, if that's what you're after.
Yeah.
Is on there. So there'll be suggestions on there coming right into your inbox. So I'd love for people to come and find me there. My website has more information, which I'm sure, Emily, you'll put on in the show notes. So that'll be lovely to see you there as well. So there is a lot of support in terms of one-to-one conversations, coaching sessions we can have together. I have a new coaching program, which is just launched, which is a group coaching program called Honoring You, all about honoring yourself, all about teaching ourselves to honor ourselves in so many beautiful ways, which is starting very soon. So that's something I'd absolutely love for you to come and join. If there is a conversation you'd like to have with me beforehand, I offer what I call a Maverick call with me. So we can jump on a call, we can design that future for you. We can create space to think about what your future might look like and what is it that you desire for yourself. So think of it as a pouring back into yourself to create that future you, whatever that future you is like. We can jump on the call to do that as well. And yeah, come and find me. Drop me a DM on Instagram, on email, wherever.
Yeah.
Love to connect.
Amazing. I will drop all of Prarthana's deets and links in the show notes. So click through, connect with her on Instagram. I absolutely love when I'm like sort of at the beginning of people's evolution or one of the many phases of their evolutions. And I was definitely at the beginning of, or maybe in the middle of your evolution with how you were showing up on social media. And it's something that I always want to let you know that I am celebrating you and I see you. And I just love how your content shifted. It like felt so embodied. like I remember seeing one post and I was like, this is a different energy. Like she's doing something different. And it just felt really cool to
Oh,
see that because as somebody who I connected with, I like kind of Instagram that I was not stalking, I was investigating. So I had scrolled on your profile before. So seeing your content before and now and how it continues to evolve with your growth is really freaking cool. I really love that. And I'm
thank
celebrating you so much because you just feel so like yourself. And it's like the partner who was in the groups with us in the mastermind. So I was like, look, she's just being herself and showing herself to the world and talking about what she cares about. So I'm celebrating you and all that you stand for and represent and advocate for, and who you are as a mom, a friend, a wife, a sister, a daughter, a woman in the world, a fellow person in the healing art space, really doing work to help. And that's really valuable. That's often undervalued, but really, really valuable. And I just want to say that I see you. And to close us off, I want you to share something, a valuable insight or actionable step that you would give to my listeners today to help them step into their power and to help them live a more empowered life. Yeah.
you. Begin, if you're at the very beginning of your journey,
Mm,
I highly recommend buying yourself a journal or any notebook
mm,
and doing a brain dump of the many thoughts, the many responsibilities, the many to-do lists, the many whatever it is,
yeah.
dump it into a sheet of paper. And I think that is a key starting point to creating space for yourself. There is often so much whirling around in our heads. I know I wake up with thinking, oh, I have a doctor's appointment I haven't booked. Oh, I have clothes to pick up from the dry cleaning. Oh gosh, have I booked that birthday party, the venue for that birthday party for my daughter? There are things in our heads. We wake up with it and we go to bed with it.
Mm,
And there is no escaping that.
mm,
But creating space for me every morning, Emily, I begin with a dump, a brain dump of all the things. And what that does for me is empties my brain. I can see it on paper. And once I've done that, I feel lighter.
mm,
Once, so in response to your question, if you start with brain dumping every morning,
mm.
while your kettle's boiling, while you're making coffee for yourself, while you are in the shower, if that's what you're doing, make a quick sort of mental list of what is it that you want to write down. Step out of the shower, put it all on paper. Brushing your teeth, whatever it is you're
Yeah.
doing, put it all down on paper. You will feel lighter. So start there. Start with putting that burden we carry down. And once you've done that, then you can start with journaling questions like, who are you? What do you want to see happen for yourself in the world? What is the life you want to see for the rest of, for the next few years coming your way, next 2 years, next 3 years, whatever it is. And then begin slowly to set yourself a goal to work towards. But none of that will come while we are still juggling multiple to-do lists in our heads. So start there, ladies.
I love that. That one alone is the reason we recorded this episode because that was such a good tip. I'm like, that makes so much sense. I remember when I actually used to brain dump a lot as well as a journaling tool in the mornings, but I was dumping desires, like what I wanted to feel, how I wanted to feel that day, how I wanted to show up, and sort of like the energy I wanted to move with.
Mm.
So, and then what I was grateful for. So it was like these few points. And it was just, it's such a beautiful way to ground, to release also the things that you feel like are burdening your mind and are so heavy. They're often so heavy and they will remain on loop if we do nothing to interrupt that loop. So just
Absolutely.
writing it out is you interrupting that loop so that you can create space for you to think about something else, something more productive, and also begin to tackle the list from like a different perspective, not an overwhelmed, anxious, oh my goodness, how is this all going to get done state.
And can I add that you can do this brain dump even when you are in the trenches of motherhood.
Mm,
Even when you feel like when you got a baby stuck to your boob at 3 a.m., you can do a
yes.
brain dump. It's the sort of when you're so shattered, when you're so tired, that's when we benefit from it the most.
Mm,
Because that's when it's like a lifeline to
mm,
get you out of the trenches,
um,
because it immediately makes you feel lighter
mm,
immediately. And you are so right about the gratitude. It's if you begin and end your day with gratitudes,
mm,
with making a list of what it is that you're grateful for, life will begin to shift, because we speak to the universe and the universe speaks back to us
yeah,
when we create that space, when we create space for what we're thankful for, what we're grateful for.
yeah.
It, our voice and our vibration and our thinking, it carries into the universe.
Mm,
And it's so important to speak to ourselves compassionately, because
mm,
that's where it begins to shift. That's where the beginnings of the mindset shift come from there.
mm. Oh, beautiful. Lovely. What a beautiful way to close. Thank you so much, Prarthana. This was just everything and then some. I learned so much. Thank you so much for your time, your energy. I honestly am going to be re-listening to this one while I'm editing it because I'm like, oh, yes, that breathe while the water boils will stick with me forever. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us and all of your knowledge, all of your wisdom through walking this journey for yourself and being an embodiment of the work that you are sharing out into the world. Thank you. And I'm so excited for what's to come for you. Onwards and upwards.
Indeed, indeed. Emily, I am so touched. Thank you so much for having me, and I cannot wait to connect with you in more and many different ways as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you.